Memeing ourselves into oblivion.
Oh, what's this? Are we talking about potential causal networks? How humanity and our generalized heuristics may work? Here's the intro.
Though I know I should be wary, still I venture someplace scary. Ghostly haunting, I turn loose. Beetlejuice! Beetlejuice! Beetlejuice!
Welcome, everyone, to our new episode of Memsterpiece Theater. That is a terrible name. Please make sure I never use it again. Now, what were we actually talking about? What are these memetic causal networks? As often has been the case, I was listening to a Wolfram Physics stream earlier, and they kind of delved into a whole number of different topics. Full disclosure, I did apply for the summer school. Again, do not let this video influence anybody in any way. Now, moving right along, what are we talking about here? All right, you got hypergraphs. Basically, the core of the Wolfram Physics project, as far as I understand it, is utilizing these things called hypergraphs, which is basically, if you remember from any of the pre-algebra, algebra things, like, all right, you get your graph paper and everything, you're plotting off those lines, you try to see the curves and everything, use the TI-83, 83 plus, or 89, whatever it was. Now we have Mathematica, apparently, which I totally need to learn how to use. So, but essentially, as far as what they're doing is they're trying to model out a lot of space-time events, which I've totally seen some simulations of, oh, this kind of looks like some of this data that we've observed via black holes and everything. That's kind of cool. Now, at one point, they started talking about some work they had done when they had interfaced with the Facebook API back in the day. And apparently they were trying to see, oh, can we actually glean something from people who have certain friendships and everything like that? It's like, will you always be a friend? And when they were using that term, I'm like, all right, now, is it friend? Maybe within Facebook there is a category of somebody being a friend. I'd say many people would say there are many categories of friend, depending on how you want to define it there. I tend to view it as just, it's a causal association. I kind of see it like physics as well. It's like you have interactions. If you're having positive interactions, guess what? You'll probably see more of those people. If you're having negative interactions, unless you're basically me, you're probably not going to see those people as much here. But what do we got here? All right, let's look at this. Well, basically, they're plotting out some data here. All right, you got all these squigglies. Oh, if I were to think about that as certain social networks, let's just say maybe there's certain people that associate. Maybe there's other people that don't associate with other folks. Sometimes there's crossover. Sometimes there's group within groups. All I know is math is hard, but this might actually explain a lot. Basically, here's the thing. A directed hypergraph differs from that. Its hyperedges are not sets, but an ordered pair of subsets of X, constituting the tail and heads of the hyperedge. All right, as you can see here, we go down and down. And I probably should have actually read all this, but oh, look, hey, that seems to be a circuit there. It's like some people progress through here, some other folks through there. Oh, isn't that pretty? The groups within groups. Now, I don't think that's always the case. I tend to think this is a more accurate, the first one that we saw there, look at it. But as far as that goes, okay, we don't need the Wikipedia article. Yes, I see you there. Hail, Eleanor. Absolutely good to see you. So, what are we all talking about here? We're talking about how humanity itself works. And even Professor Wolfram, he was even saying, it's like, all right, well, if we have these atoms of space, which in my opinion are probably in the form of a hyperbolic figure eight knot and or its complement there, just as far as a number of parameters work out that way. And they're constantly rewriting each other. If it's literally just like eddies within eddies and that whole 5/3 thing that 3 blue plus 1 brown or whatever it is was talking about in one of his videos, I'm like, oh, isn't that interesting? If we're going to follow, I don't know, the laws of entropy and wanting to exist in the lowest energy state. I'm like, if you got a manifold that can kind of do that, wouldn't that make sense? Now, if they're potentially, and I have no idea if this is the case, but this would be crazy. If it's constantly rewriting, if it's constantly updating, if that actually explains a lot of flow of everything within this universe, we're part of this universe. We are observers within this universe. That would mean we're being constantly rewritten and updated all the time, which starts to make my head hurt. When my head hurts, I usually look for outlets. Squirrels make me happy. It's okay. It's okay. We will survive these times. Knock on wood. No, all right. But what am I just trying to say? I'm just trying to say that we're human beings. We're incredibly complex creatures. We're perfectly imperfect creatures. I'm just saying if we were a bit more honest with each other, I think we'd be in a better place. It's not always easy because I feel that very often, and again, maybe it's just my NPC-ish nature here, all I remember is from playing Dragon Age Origins, if you want to put it on auto, you could literally set a hierarchy of priorities. Here's what you're doing under these parameters. Don't we kind of fall under those parameters in some way? It's like certain things, okay, well, maybe we'll let that go. We'll let that, oh, that particular thing. Oh, no, some people use the word sacred cow. I just think there's something that happens to gather our attention, depending on who's saying it in the context. Depending on how much free time we have at the time, we may actually harp on it a little more so than we would other things. That's all I'm saying here. We're going on 7 minutes. Just gonna want to get this out here. I'm gonna look into this a little bit more. If I happen to go to school, maybe this will be one of those projects. If not, I'll totally still keep an eye on this and work on modern memetic theory, because I think we can help explain a lot. Just gotta not get caught up in the actual measurement of what we're trying to take in. That's all I'm saying. Peace out, everybody. Be safe. Squirrel.
낮에는 따사로운 인간적인 여자 커피 한 잔에 여유를 아는 품격 있는 여자 오빤 강남스타일 강남스타일